Hello folks, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1161. Boy oh boy, Oda continues to piece together the remaining pieces of the puzzle that is God Valley. As far as adding more context, that's the thing I'm looking forward to more than anything. And in this chapter, Oda decides to wrap up one of the major plot points, which I'm kind of glad that he did that right away, which I'll get into why that is. Plus, a couple of plot points in this chapter that kind of threw me for a loop as far as like revealing one of the Holy Knights, because I completely jumped the gun. I'm not afraid to admit that, and I'll explain why I jumped the gun and why I think this is Oda geniusly playing with our expectations. Speaking of playing with our expectations, another reveal about the mother of Teach gets revealed. I'll get into that, which is not as surprising, and I think anybody with a brain could have figured out what was going on here as far as Oda and the way he left us on a cliffhanger thinking who this character might be connected to. No, we were just overthinking this. I'll get into that, but let's get into this chapter. We start off with a colour spread, which honestly is colour spread of the year. I don't give a shit what anybody says. This colour spread was creative. Not only was it creative as fuck, but it contains so many Easter eggs, which I'm sure a lot of people with their magnifying glasses that want to be the Sherlock Holmes of the One Piece community are going to be jizzing over this. So we got the Straw Hats. It looks like they're at a carnival because they're trying to win. You get a machine you would see at a carnival where you get plushies if you win. Here we got the Straw Hats, and the Straw Hats in particular I find the most curious out the bunch is number one, Nami, Luffy, and Robin. You've got Frankie, who looks like he's doesn't have enough change. Then you got Nami and Luffy, who clearly have won plushies that resemble characters that are important and very close to them. Case in point, a lot of characters are important to Nami. You got Vivi, Nojiko, Bellamere, you get it. In Luffy's case, you got Shanks, Ace, Sabo, Makino, Dandan, and Garp. But I find it incredibly funny and messed up, honestly. You got Boa Hancock being dropped. I don't know if that's being dropped by Luffy, but I just noticed that was one thing that stood out. One of the plushies stood out. Carrot and Boa Hancock looked like they were falling or being dropped. Then you got Robin, who's adorable as all hell in this colour spread. I don't know if she's concerned because she realizes it's the real Chopper, because you got Nami and Luffy fighting over a plushie of Chopper. Then you got the real Chopper, who's wearing a t-shirt that says Rogue. You got Usopp trying to win Chopper, so I'm guessing they are aware that's the real Chopper. Then you got Brook hanging upside down for whatever reason. And whenever I think of Brook, I'm thinking of Gunko right now. Then you got Jinbei in the background resting on Soul, and Robin seems more concerned about Chopper. Did anybody else find that strange? Chopper's freaking out, and Robin's got this adorable expression like she's scared, but the expression she gives kind of reminds me of the one that Shakky has by the end of this chapter. The only difference here is Robin's not crying, but spoiler alert, they both deal with the same asshole, past and present. So I find that very ironic. I don't know just about anybody else, but that's something that's just stuck out to me when going back to this colour spread after you read this chapter. Obviously, the title of this colour spread is What We Hold Dear in Our Hearts Forever. So that was cool. Like I said, I think it's one of the best colour spreads of the year. Definitely one of the most creative Oda's come up with, so I love that. Then we got the actual cover page, the Yamato cover story, and paying homage to the heroes or the Kozuki members, the fallen members of the Kozuki clan, because you got Kinemon and Momonosuke right beside Yamato, so that's pretty cool. I don't know what's going to happen with the conclusion. Like I said, I kind of want to see a resolution as far as like Ulti and Page 1 kind of like redeem themselves from a character standpoint and say, hey, we apologize for what we did because now we're following with Yamato. I don't know what's going to happen with the Yamato. Like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but unless something else happens with someone invading Wano, this cover story is set to end pretty soon. Not to be a downer, but it's looking more and more like we will not see the Straw Hats again until 2026. I think that's fair to say, considering where we're at. Not to say that I have a problem with that, but I definitely see people like see it from both sides. Like, on the one hand, it's cool, we are getting this backstory now. The second time, it's bad timing because we also want to see what's going on with the Straw Hats right now, especially when one of those key figures we want to see is Robin. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. We start off the chapter, obviously, with God Valley, with the monster trio of this era, Roger, Garp, and Zebek. And they're all thinking, they're priorities right now are pretty much where did that person go? In Roger's case, where did Shakky? Is she alright? Zabek, he's like, where it's Eris and Teach. So now we have a name for the mother, which I'll get into later. But so that's Zabek's priorities. Then we got Garp, who say, where did Roger go? So he's all about Roger. He doesn't give a shit about anybody else. Then you got the son of Garp, Muggy the Dragon, on the run, trying to get Shamrock and Shanks free. And I knew this was going to happen because we knew that the twins got separated. But we get one of the Holy Knights, Saint Maffey, part of the Satchel's family. One of the Gods Knight that was introduced in the previous chapter. I'll get into that shortly. But she's caught on to Dragon and immediately attacks Dragon. Dragon isn't able to dodge. Now, one of the theories coming out of this God Valley incident is Dragon's going to attain his Devil Fruit here. He may end up finding the Devil Fruit. I don't know if it's going to be here. But clearly, he doesn't have one, nor does he have Observation Hockey, because this Holy... Then again, this Saint Maffey is a Holy Knight, so that's not to be underestimated. So she strikes Dragon, and because of this is where the twins get separated, because one gets snatched up by Saint Maffey, the other falls to the ground, that being Shanks. So now you can see where this is going. And I thought it was going to be Garland that did this, but I didn't think it was Saint Maffey. Now, in the previous chapter, and this is what I said about Oda playing with our expectations as far as one of the Holy Knights, and him revealing who this Holy Knight was, because I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one that thought this. When we saw this Holy Knight, we thought of Saint Killingham. And don't lie to me, because you see the teeth here, this era. We got the panel in the previous chapter, and in that chapter, in that panel as well, Saint Maffey has the same teeth as Saint Killingham. So this is why I kind of jumped the gun and thought that was Saint Killingham, for two reasons. One, not only the appearance, but also because of the fact that we have two Holy Knights that are present right now. One being Saint Summers, who's still a Holy Knight, and the other being, despite the hairstyle and the hairdo, Gunko apparently never ages. So there's that too. But yeah, I completely jumped the gun. I'm not afraid to admit that, and that's a couple of reasons why. But I love that Oda played with our expectations, because this isn't Saint Killingham at all. But I'm willing to bet my house that this Saint Maffey is related to Saint Killingham, because not only the teeth, but also the appearance resembles that. I know I'm not the only one. There may be 1% out of the 99% that actually guessed this right. But you can see why. And you can see why Oda gave us a name drop here, similar to how he did with Teacher's mother in this chapter. He's playing with our expectations. If you don't think Oda did this intentionally, go back to the panel, not to be a perv, but look at the way that St. Garling's hair is positioned. It's covering her chest, right? So you can't see the difference. I'm sorry, but you can't. So don't even lie to me about that. So Oda knew what he was doing there. He knew what he was doing with the character errors, because he never name dropped the mother of Teach and the wife of Zabek when we first got introduced, which is why a lot of people had the interpretation that they did, and why Oda, in my opinion, did that deliberately, and why he didn't give us a name. It's part of his job. Even if we thought there wasn't a chance, even if he gets you to think about it, Oda's doing his job. So I don't care what you think. That's Oda doing his job. That's the reason he didn't give us a name then, because it made you think. So clearly, Eris, unless we find out there's more to the Nico Olivier lineage, then no, it's not a character connected to Nico Olivier or Nico Robin, which I'm fine for, because I don't know what that would have done for Nico Robin anyway. I said that in my last review, but here it's like Dragon gets struck down by Saint Maffey, which is badass because she used a blast breast, kind of remind me of Kaido a little bit, to take down Dragon. I don't know if there's sense of irony there, but his one instinct is to rescue one of the children. So if I can't do this, like, I'm here to atone for setting up this twisted murder game. So even Dragon feels responsible for this. So before Saint Maffey comes in and actually kills Dragon, he's technically saved by Newgate Whitebeard, because Whitebeard's attack comes out of nowhere and just slices her in half. I love that Newgate, even during this attack, Lyndon and Newgate are arguing about this. Lyndon's like, I could have died. Then you got Dragon, it's like literally seeing them pass through. Like, whoa, what the So even at this stage, like, Dragon is completely outmatched by the Rock. So that should give you a pretty good indicator. Then Kaido comes into the picture and said, hey, this isn't what we agreed on, so I'm guessing Lily was going to try to take the devil fruit for herself. So Kaido's like, he caught on, said, you better fulfill your promise. She technically did, but I love that we got the back and forth here. Then Shakky comes in, and he's all about, these scrubs are after Shakky. So we get the panel of the four. These four, Kaido, Shakky, Lin, and Newgate, on top of Glorious Soa and Stussy, spoiler alert, are pretty much going to be the only survivors of the God Valley incident that is tied to the rocks, unless we find something else different. This plot point is done to separate the twins, with Saint Matthew capturing Shamrock. Obviously, Dragon is able to, like, rescue Shanks. So that's how. And did anybody else notice that he had a bump on his head? So I don't know if that's good. Just keep that in mind, because I wouldn't be surprised if Oda's going for a memory loss type of deal here. Here comes Dragon's papa, Garp, who hockeys up after seeing Big Fish from the Rocks Pirates, because he literally says this is a big catch. He comes in and just, I don't know if he uses Galaxy Impact, it kind of looks like it, but he's like trying to nail Kaido, Newgate, Shakky, and Lin. But you see a panel of Kaido, Lin, and Newgate try to outrun Garp's punch. Who would ever thought that? But that just goes to show you how monstrous Prime Garp is here. Now, we don't see Shakky in this scene, but I'm pretty sure he's also in that area. So I don't know what happened to him, but we know he gets captured. That's the thing we know. We know he gets captured. We know he goes to Impel Down, but we know he survives. So that's more to my point. We know who survives as far as the Rocks Pirates go. Then speaking of survivors, we got Kuma and Ivankov who are seeing this go down. So I like we're getting added asterisks as far as, like, even though we see the Kuma backstory incorporated into the God Valley incident, we're getting more and more details, more and more pieces to that jigsaw puzzle that's going to finally piece together by the time this flashback is over with. So I'm glad that's what Oda's going with. And I think it's important to note here, St. Matthew, despite being attacked by Newgate, is still alive with Shamrock in hand. So we've got St. Matthew with one, and we've got Dragon with the other. So Oda did that deliberately. And this is where we go into the other portion of this chapter, where Oda focuses on the Shakayaku rescue operation, because you got members of the Rocks Pirates, you got the Rogers Pirates, like, they're all going for Shakky, and I love how Glorious is there as well. But we know who the winner's going to be. Like, Oda's doubling down on the asshole that is Saint Summers, because not only the way he was treating the child in the previous chapter, but now the way Saint Summers was abusing Shakayaku and attempted to torture Shakayaku. So not much has changed from the past and the present. So we see some of the father being taken out by Shakky, even though she's shackled. So I guess it answers our question. She never had a devil fruit, which kind of makes the question, how broken is this era? I'll get into that because I know why Oda's doing this flashback here. But then Shakky says something that gets on Saint Summers' gears, and then he actually slaps Shakayaku. Shakky wasn't putting up with that, so she actually got a kick in on Saint Summers, but Saint Summers was able to grab the leg, and he actually used the thorn mace that he tried to use on Robin here in the present. And this is why I said about the colour spread. Shakky gets nailed with this mace. All this effort just to rescue you. Maybe I should just go ahead and torture you and kill you, but that pretty much, like, it's like playing with fate there, because he's wasting time when we all know what's going to happen. So, but I love, while this is going on, you got like a Roger and Newgate clash. I thought that's kind of cool. I don't know if this is the first time they clashed in this time period, but I thought it was cool that Oda highlighted this here. Shakky thinks he's going to be the one to rescue Shakky. Rayleigh says, hold my beer, but I'll get to that in a second. Saint Summers is about to, like, torture her, and he's about to nail her. The Silver Knight comes in. Rayleigh steps in and just nails Saint Summers with the Transcend Higan Crescent. So I love that. He sends it through the wall. I'll get to that in a second. But obviously, this was never in question. Rayleigh is the one that saved Shakky. Was anybody else expected anybody else to save Shakky at this point? No. So yeah, Shakayaku, despite how badass she was at this era, finally starts tearing up, because there's a lot you can take from, there's a lot of interpretation you could take from this scene, but obviously there's a lot of regret. Rayleigh saw the message. Rayleigh's like, I'm here for you. And you got Shakky's like, you're late. And Rayleigh's like, I'm sorry for letting this come to this. And Shakky finally admits like she was scared. So even putting up a brave face for all of this, she admits she was scared. So I like that. Meanwhile, in the background, you got Roger and you got Scopper looking in. They're jealous, but they're happy for Rayleigh. So I guess they're going to have to concede, like, Rayleigh is in her heart now, so they're just going to have to accept that. I don't think they're losing out either, so. But that's how Oda decides to end the chapter. Two things that I like about this scene. Number one is the fact that Oda decided to wrap this up, because it's one of the major plot points that kind of like takes the tension away, because we know Shakky is the one that survived. We know she survives this, considering what we get in the present. So I'm glad that Oda decided to get that out of the way. You can make the argument, though, a lot of things in this flashback are going to be considered like predictable, considering what we know in the present. Like, for instance, like the Holy Knights, we know 3 out of the 9 Holy Knights. Like, I don't know if Oda's still going for that plot point as far as like the 9 silhouettes when we first saw the Holy Knights. That could be the case here. So we see 3 of the Holy Knights in this era. We know they're going to survive. Like Saint Summers, despite the attack, we know he survived. That's why Oda had him like sent sailing through the wall. Again, I was going to ask the question, during this era, was the Holy Knights immortal? It turns out, yes, they were, because St. Matthew took an attack from Newgate, sliced in half, and then we see her again, perfectly fine. So Oda decided to make an interesting choice by having Rayleigh St. Summers flying through the wall. I'm glad that he did that, because St. Summers deserved to get an ass kicking. He deserves it in the past and he deserves it in the present. But he sent him crashing through the wall. So I'm guessing either 2 things are going to happen here. Either this fight's not over, which I'll be on board with, because this would give Rayleigh more spotlight. Number 2, St. Garland could also show up as well, because we don't know where we didn't see him at all in this chapter. So there's that looming over. I don't think this is over, but we know Shakky's going to survive. So like I said, if Oda gets this plot point out of the way now, then things become a little bit more unpredictable. Outside of Kuma and Ivankov and Dragon, like, we don't really know what's going to go down outside of the main cast that are a part of this God Valley incident. The second reason I like this, I knew that I said it word for word, Rayleigh was going to be the one to save Shakky. That wasn't a shock. I like this because it adds a more emotional element to this and to their dynamic, because we haven't seen that in the present. So we're seeing it now, and I'm glad that Oda's given it here, because the emotion is not just coming out from Shakky, it's coming from Rayleigh. Because I don't know if you noticed, when Rayleigh's like, I'm sorry for letting it come to this, Rayleigh was tearing up as well. So this is one of the reasons why I pitched. I was totally on board with Rayleigh being the one to free Shakky. As predictable as it might have been, I'm glad they added that here, because it gives more emotional element to both of these characters, who, let's be real, following this, they're probably not going to have much of a moment going forward. So Oda's giving it here. The other reason Oda's giving this flashback outside of, like, when else is he going to tie in the God Valley incident into the past with another hugely historical arc such as Elbaf. The other reason he's doing this is to hype up the previous generation in order for it to mean something when the current generation surpasses them, if they haven't already. So that's the second reason why Oda's doing this. Which is why I said I'm not just saying this is just a coincidence just for the hell of it. Like, there's a reason why Shakky was incorporated and it's being hyped up. So, but with this, it's going to be, I feel like Elbaf, by the end of this, is going to surpass all expectations. So my final point is, if the Holy Knights get replaced due to old age, or did something else happen to these Holy Knights? So we're going to have to wait and see, because like I said, in the present, it's made pretty clear that the Holy Knights are immortal. So is that meant for all the Holy Knights, or is it just some? So that's another piece of the puzzle that I'm intrigued to find out when Oda decides to piece that in. But like I said, with these pieces being put together for the puzzle that is God Valley, like, it's going to be added context, which is the best thing I'm most curious about right now. So now we can move on with the less predictable elements of God Valley going forward. Like I said, We know who survives, it's just getting the added context now. Like I said in a previous review, if you're excited because of the action, then the anime is going to go above and beyond. They're going to make it even bigger than what Oda's doing here. Just let's be real here. So this is not going to be about the action. It's going to be about the lore, and it's going to be the added context that we've been waiting for how many years. So we're getting it here. But boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, he played with my expectations as far as that Saint Murphy and who I thought that was. But it looks like there may be a connection anyway. So those are my thoughts. Please tell me yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.